We've been hearing another description of self-realisation. In this case, it was the sage Uddalaka. And towards the end of the description, we had an interesting discussion on the mind and the body, which is very much the concern of traditional yoga. And it seems to be that after he reached the supreme state, Uddalaka went on and practiced his traditional yogic practices. Usually, the usual pattern has been in the Yoga Vasishta that once somebody hits the supreme state, they seem to reside in a state of supreme peace or bliss or equanimity for quite a long time. And then they engage in their normal duties, they get back to everyday life. It's different in this case. What Uddalaka has done is he gets on with his yogic practices, which seem to be kundalini yoga or pranayama. He chants the word Om. He does various practices, and his fate is rather an unusual one, which we'll find out. The point I want to make is that the practices which are being described here are not relevant to the actual process of realization, of self-realization. And Vasishta himself points this out at the beginning of chapter 56. So if you're not a practitioner of Kundalini Yoga, then don't worry about it. You don't need to be doing this or practicing this. And if you are, then good luck to you. So I'm just going to read this because it's part of the story element, and then we'll get back on track with self-enquiry later. Vasishta continued. The sage Uddalaka then sat down in the lotus posture, with his eyes half closed in meditation. He uttered the holy word Om, which bestows the highest state. He intoned Om in such a way that its vibrations filled his whole being right up to the crown of his head. As the first part of his practice, he exhaled his breath completely. It was as if his life force had abandoned the body and was roaming in the space dimension of pure consciousness. The fire that arose from his heart burnt the whole of his body. All this Uddalaka practiced without the violence involved in Hatha yoga, for Hatha yoga gives rise to pain. Hatha yoga is what we normally call Hatha yoga in the West, which is the yoga that's usually practiced in the West to do with physical postures. So there's obviously a little bit of yogic politicking going on here. With the second utterance of the holy word Om, he reached a state of equilibrium, and there happened in him a spontaneous retention of the breath, life force, without agitation or vibration. The life force stood still, as it were, neither outside nor inside, neither below nor above. After reducing the body to ashes, the fire burnt itself out and vanished. Only the pure ashes were visible. You can take this how you like. It seems that I suspect this is some sort of internal experience, almost like some kind of shamanic thing. I mean, he quite clearly still has a body later on, as we'll find, but let's see what happens. It was as if the very bones had turned into camphor, which was being burnt in adoration. Camphor's burnt in Hindu puja rituals. The ashes were blown by a powerful wind and dispersed in space. All this happened without the violence of Hatha yoga, for Hatha yoga gives rise to pain. In the third stage, when the holy word Om reached its culmination, or tranquility, there arose the inhalation of breath, the drawing in of the life force. During this stage, the life forces, which were in the very centre of the nectar of consciousness, spread out in space as a cool breeze. These forces reached the region of the moon. There they spread out as auspicious rays, which thereupon rained on the ashes that remained of the body. So that the moon's also could be regarded here as an internal thing. So there's a lot of internal stuff going on here. Instantly there arose from the ashes a radiant being with 4 arms like Lord Vishnu. Uddalaka shone like a divinity, his whole being transmuted into divinity. The life force filled the inner kundalini, which was spread out like a spiral. Uddalaka's body had thus been completely purified. And that's a concern of yoga, to purify the body. It takes the body as real. Then he, who was already seated in the lotus posture, made the posture firm, tied up his senses, and proceeded to make his consciousness absolutely free from the least movement of thought. With all his strength he restrained his mind from distraction. His half-closed eyes were still and motionless. With the mind established in inner silence, he equalized the movement of the twin life forces, prana and apana. He withdrew his inner senses from contact with their objects, even as oil is separated from the seed. Thereupon he became directly aware of the mental conditioning created by past experiences and unconditioned the awareness and made it pure. Then he firmly closed his rectum and the other outlets to the body, the eyes, etc. We have 9 openings to the body which are closed in certain practices. With his life force and awareness thus prevented from externalization by perfect discipline, he held his mind in his heart.